9.6 Equations of circles. The first thing you need is the equation of a circle in standard form, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And the center is h comma k. The radius is r. Now with that formula, you can use the following information and fill in. It says write each circle equation in standard form given this information. You have the center, radius, or diameter. So you fill in your hk and your radius. So it would be x minus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to r squared. So if r is 2, r squared would be 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Final answer. If you wanted to do a diameter problem, here's your h, here's your k, and your diameter is 18, so your radius would be half of that. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So if you wanted your r squared, that would be 81. And then plug into the formula. X minus a negative 2 gives me plus 2 squared, plus y minus a negative 11 would be plus 11 squared is equal to r squared, which we said was 81. And if you had a problem where you had a square root as the radius, if you squared the square root of 47, that r squared would just be 47. Square root of 47 times square root of 47 is 47. Fill in your h and k, so that would be x minus a negative 4, so plus 4 squared, plus y minus 0 squared is equal to 47. Some people like to write it like this. I'm okay with either way, but you could simplify a little bit there since you don't have a k value, it being 0. And on the next page, example 2, it says given the center and the circumference slash area, same directions. So what you do on that one is fill in your h and k. Now if you're given the circumference, that formula is 2 pi r. You'll need to plug in this 6 pi for your circumference and solve for your radius. So if you fill that in, circumference is 6 pi, divide by 2 pi on both sides. Those would cancel, those would cancel. 6 divided by 2 gives me a radius of 3. So if I want my r squared, 3 times 3 is 9. And then you'd fill in your formula just like we did on the other ones. So it'd be x minus a negative 1, so x plus 1 squared, plus y minus 4 squared is equal to r squared being 9. On example 2, part 9, you do the same thing, except instead of circumference, you're given the area. So you're going to use the area formula, which I have listed here. And then you'll fill in the area. 16 pi is equal to pi r squared. Divide by pi on both sides. And you get r squared is 16, which we wanted r squared. So there's no need to square root it and then re-square it. Here's your h and k. So you're going to fill those in. It'd be x minus a negative 8, which would be plus 8. And then y minus a negative 11, which would be plus 11 squared is equal to your r squared, which we found to be 16. On example 3, given the graph, do the same thing. So you're going to need the center and you're going to need the radius. Now to find the center, you can kind of look at it and tell where the middle radii are going to cross at. Or if you wanted to count all the way across, then you could just see what the middle of that counting is from each direction. So it looks like it's going to be about right here, and that center is at positive 1, 2, 3 for the x value, and then negative 2 for the y value. So that's my h and k. And if I want the radius, well, to find that, I would just count from the center to any part of the edge of the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A radius of 5, so my r squared would be 25. 5 times 5. And then you would fill in the formula. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to your r squared value, which is 25. And we'll do the same thing here. On part 12, check and see where the middle is. Or you can start and count all the way across. If I did that, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So halfway would be 7. And bring me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would bring me right here. And that center is at -1 and then up 3. So -1 comma 3 is my HK. And then my radius, we already counted it. It was 7. So R squared would be 49. And then you would again fill in your formula. X plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 49. Moving on to example 4. On this one, you're going to need the distance and the midpoint formulas. So distance formula, recall it is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Your midpoint formula is a coordinate. It is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. This will tell you the distance between 2 points. This will tell you halfway between 2 points. It averages them. So if we wanted to find the center, here's my HK, I already got it, and my radius, well, this is a point on the circle. For example, like this could be the point. This is the center. So if I found that distance, that gives me the radius. So I'm going to call 9, 10 my x1, y1, and 7, 4 my x2, y2. I'm going to plug those into the distance formula. So big long square root. X2 would be 7 minus x1 is 9 squared plus y2 is 4 minus y1 is 10 squared. And this would be my radius. Now I'm actually not going to put the square root in the calculator. I'm only going to put in the stuff under the square root. And the reason why is I know I want r squared. So what's going to happen is if I don't put the square root in, my squared is going to cancel it out. So it looks like my answer comes out to be 40. So this would be the square root of 40 as my radius. So if I wanted r squared, if you square the square root of 40, that's just 40. And to prove that to you, I'll show you in the calculator. Square root of 40, if you squared that, you just get 40. The squared and the square root cancel out. So that gives me enough information to plug into my formula. X minus 9 squared plus y minus 10 squared is equal to my r squared, which came out to be 40. Example 4, part 15. You're going to do the same thing. I'm looking for my radius. I already have my h comma k, which I'm going to call my x1, y1. Now my x2, y2 would be 1 comma 10. You could flip-flop those, by the way. And again, big long square root and plug into this distance formula. X2 is 1, x1 is 2 squared plus y2 is 10 minus a -6, so plus 6 squared. And again, I'm not going to put the square root in the calculator. I'm going to do everything under the square root. So it looks like that would give me a total of 257. So 257 with the square root would be my r. And if I wanted r squared, again, the square root would just cancel out with the squared, and I have 257 as my r squared. So I'm going to plug in x minus 2 squared plus y plus 6 squared is equal to 257. On example 5, we'll have to use the midpoint formula and the distance formula. So given these endpoints, for example, -14, comma 1 and -10, comma 9, maybe those would be these 2 points. It doesn't really matter. They're endpoints somewhere on the diameter, anywhere around the circle. So if I found the midpoint of those, that would bring me to the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what the center of this circle is. I'm going to let this be my x1, y1, this be my x2, y2. I'm going to plug into the midpoint formula, which again was x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. So plug in x1 is negative 14, plus x2 is negative 10 over 2, comma, y1 is 1, plus 9 over 2. Simplify that, and you'll get a center of negative 12, comma, 5. So that gives me my HK. Now I also need the radius, and you'll have to do that like we did on 13 and 15 here. So I'm going to let my center be my x1, y1. And then this is a point on the circle. So if I find the distance between those two, it will give me my radius. So I'm going to do distance formula. It would be x2, which is negative 10, minus x1, so plus 12 squared, plus 9 minus 5 squared. Just like before, I'm not going to plug the square root into the calculator. And if I simplify this, I will get the square root of 20. So my r squared value, if I squared square root of 20, I just get 20. So now I have everything I need in order to plug into my circle formula in standard form. So it would be x minus a negative 12, so x plus 12 squared, plus y minus 5 squared. I'm getting those from right here on my center, is equal to r squared, which came out to be 20. And then lastly, 18, I would do same thing. I need to find the midpoint of these. So I'm going to let the first be x1, y1, and the second coordinate be x2, y2. Plug those into the midpoint formula. So that'd be 6 plus a negative 2 over 2, comma, negative 13 plus 15 over 2. And if I simplify those, I will get a center of 2, comma, 1. And once again, I'm going to let my center be my x1, y1, and I'm going to find the distance between these two in order to find my radius. And then I'll square it to get my r squared. So the distance formula you'd plug in, I'll get negative 2 minus 2 squared plus 15 minus 1 squared. And then I'd plug that into the calculator without putting the square root in. I get 212. And if I squared that, I would just get 212 without the square root. Now I have everything I need in order to plug into my circle formula. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to r squared, which came out to be 212.